Thank you, Cora and Vadym. We will continue the discussion, not so much on the physical part, which was quite a gloomy picture, and it's really confronting us with what is happening there. And in the session before the break, it was discussed, should we have clean energy, or was that the most important priority? When you see these pictures, green is important, but it's even more important to get things up and running. And you did a marvelous job in doing that. And of course, from a physical protection, what we all learn is put the lock on your door, put the lock on your substations, that nobody get in. But the other part is, how do you do that from remote with cybersecurity? And we're going to discuss that with the panel. So may I introduce my co-panelists. We have Felipe, Florian, and Andrus. And yeah, they're still there. Good. So what we'll do, we'll let them introduce themselves briefly. From my part, why am I here? Business Director of Digital Grid Operations. Now we're here on the Power Summit, but the power doesn't go anywhere if there's no grid, and the grid needs to be controlled. So we handle, and we have the expertise on the smart metering, the digital substations, SCADA, all the data, the grid operations. And this digitization of the grid does not go without this cybersecurity. And we're going to discuss it with our different panelists. Florian, if you can introduce yourself briefly and get your expectations, what we will discuss.
Yes, hello. Oh. Hello, can you hear me? Yes, hi. Yeah, my name is Florian. I work for a company called Intertrust Technologies. We are a Silicon Valley-based data security and data interoperability company. And I will be talking about threats that stem from distributed energy resources, DERs.
Okay, thank you. Andrus, you're next.
Hello, my name is Andrus Durejko, coming from Estonian Energy Group, and I'm going to cover parts of digitalization of a grid and energy supply aspects, and also with Ukraine we have a common neighbor.
Yeah, thank you. And then Felipe, completely different view.
Thank you. So I'm Felipe Castro. I work for the European Commission in the area of security and safety of supply, and in particular in the area of cybersecurity. So for me today is a bit more on an overview on EU legislation, NIS2, network code on cybersecurity for electricity, and this type of things.
Very good. We're going to have another post, and we're going to see the next questions coming up, I hope. Yeah, so another poll, and you will have the questions. What is, in your opinion, the biggest threat to the power system's abilities to serve its customers in Europe and beyond, of course? Military threats, cybersecurity threats, climate risk, high prices, or anything else? So please give your votes, and we're going to see live how you're responding. And actually, I'm quite curious because this is a widespread part. Yeah, well, on the other hand, cybersecurity threats would be expected. In DNV, we've been running the cyber priority reports, not minority reports. We've done one last year for the power grid and the energy industry, and we've done recently again one for maritime and power industry. This is like a survey with more than 600 parties to be interviewed. And the most significant result of last year's was that the CEOs of these power companies are really quite scared now that a cyber attack could lead to damage. Not only damage from the physical infrastructure, but also possibly hurting people. And this is something that is new, and that we now really see that if parties are successful, they can really break and damage things, and not only physical attacks in the examples that Vadym showed. We'll start with Florian. DER, distributed energy resources, and why is that important to cyber protect?
Yeah, it's a little bit hard to talk about after what we just saw from the physical side, to be honest. I think from my perspective, the rise of DERs like solar, batteries, heat pumps, electric cars will increase the risk of such attacks exponentially. And why is that? Because it's very simple. The attack surface is just increasing massively because all of these new IoT devices, like a car or a heat pump or an inverter, rooftop solar, and so on, are an entry point into a data stream that feeds the energy systems. And as these entry points increase with every renewable asset, the entry points into the energy data system are increasing. And that is exactly the threat we see, so that malicious actors, nation state or private actors start to manipulate the data that these devices are generating. It's maybe less that an actor tries to switch on and off a substations. I learned that this has been tried also in the war, but it actually didn't work out, so they had to send all these missiles. So it's really the manipulation of data that concerns us. And we think that the energy industry therefore needs additional protection regarding very sophisticated cyber attacks. And with the hyperconnectivity and dynamic networks, the network security solutions that are currently deployed are just not good enough. And we heard this morning from Leo Birnbaum that he's a big advocate for more AI in the energy system, and that's great. We support that. You might not be surprised if a Silicon Valley person shows up that we like AI, but the issue is that this AI is fueled with data. Without data, AI is completely meaningless. So to orchestrate the energy system, we need AI to keep energy affordable and to keep the stability. So the AI will rely on secure and trusted data. And what we propose is that the industry gets together and agrees on so-called zero trust principles in security. And a small advertisement from mine, so that's why some industry participants have created a standards organization which is trying to achieve that. So that's the perspective from my end.
Yeah, and from a practical perspective, what you see if you look at your power portfolio, your power production portfolio, you're adding new components. Still, you're running your existing components. Your big power generators, there you have probably already taken care of, and we'll hear more from Vadym. And your old hydro stations that may be far remote have old-fashioned technology, but your windmills and your solar plants, they're all very modern with modern controllers with a lot of connectivity, and you have to be quite careful following good security rules to connect those and to get that data, also during project stage. Thank you, but then I make a jump actually to Felipe, because in a way, you already introduced it, the roles and the regulation, and how does that then work? How do we are confronted with that?
Yeah, so in the EU now, since some years now, but especially in the 2020 with the revamp of the NIS 2, there is an overarching cybersecurity framework in terms of legislation. No? And the idea there has been to put emphasis in three main aspects, but building capabilities in the member states, sharing information, and coordinating when there are crises, when there are incidents. So this is the overarching policy. Now, when we go down to sectorial, and energy is one of them, then we need to understand how to put that in operation, how to make that something that entities can work on, that can collaborate with each other in a way that is efficient for them, efficient and feasible. And this is also the area where we are working together with the industry in terms of creating what is a network code, in this case on cybersecurity for electricity, for cross-border flows of electricity. And the idea here is a set of rules agreed by experts in the industry, in the sector, and to create this set of rules for the experts in the sector, for the industry, for the authorities, so that we can exchange quickly, that we can perform those risk assessments that will identify which are the critical processes when we are operating cross-border flows of electricity, for example, which are the assets that are enabling those processes, and then based on that identify which are the entities, which are the measures that they have to put in place, this baseline of security measures, and then moving from prevention to detection, how to react to incidents when they happen, to crisis, how to liaise with the authorities in cybersecurity, union-wide and at the member state level. So this is a bit, the idea is to have this puzzle in a way that it work together without putting duplicities, but also making it somehow efficient.
I know what you see in a lot of these conferences in the past months, year, about cybersecurity and all the regulation is that it's a bit overwhelming. It's not only NIS 2 directive now. The NSOE has issued the grid code for cybersecurity for the transmission system operators. There's the Cybersecurity Act. ENISA is telling us things to do. Isn't it a bit much?
It is, when you look like that. Now the question is how to look that in a way that it fits together. So this is not that there are too many things in parallel. They make a sense altogether, and there is a need to an effort to look into the detail and how they play. No, NIS 2 is cybersecurity, Cybersecurity Act, Cyber Resilience Act, Network Code. Each of them is looking in a different angle, but also always, and this is the idea, is with the contribution of the community here.
Exactly, and the good part is that it all somehow fits together, these pieces of the puzzle. There's some overlap, and you need really orchestra leader to get it all combined and have the right resources being able to work on that. We'll come back to the resources later, because I like to go to Andrus. And now you heard about the DER, you heard about there's rules that you can comply to. How does that work for you?
Yeah, it's always good to have the rules and regulations supporting it. However, looking at the grid perspective, and also I do have a small or even long experience from mobile industry. It means that actually we are adding constantly by digitalization compute power throughout the grid, and this compute power really is not sitting in a safe environment. It's actually between forest and bushes, and you don't really know what's happening, and that's also. But of course, that's physical perimeter in order to get your prevention and things in place. Also, looking procedures and having been ready for preventing. And also, like based on Ukrainian experience, it's important to be ready also for recovery. It means that you invest, you prevent, you monitor, but still things can happen, and also this part needs to be ready in daily operations.
Yeah. And here you see also what Vadym said. It's, you can harden your system, but resilience is maybe more important. You can get hit, you can get on your knees, but you have to get up again. And this is also what is on cybersecurity part. If you get breached, you need to recover. And this is something that they saw also in Ukraine 2015, 2016 with your attacks. Okay, they were they managed to disrupt power supply. It took you like 4 hours to get power up again in the old-fashioned way, sending people to the substations calling. Yeah. It took you 2 months to get the software reinstalled because that was destroyed. But it also showed that you had to respond, and this is what you had in your list. Have a good emergency response, have that trained. You trained real life, but it is also a part that we need to train, and that is part of the NIS directive. That brings me to you, Cora, because if you look at the efforts that we have been putting on the prevention and then the monitoring of cybersecurity and how we can support industry to have a contingency planning and the testing and the recovering. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I think we still focus too much on prevention and monitoring. It's very important that we do so, but in the same time, like the other panelists already mentioned, there is no such thing as 100% security. So in the end, you always have to be prepared for the worst. So contingency planning should, for me, be the top priority. And of course, the pen testing, etc., you should also do that. And the monitoring is important. But in the end, you know, things will happen. at a certain moment, and what do you do then? You have to, and it doesn't have to be a 500 pages manual. You actually have to know and try and test and see what happens as if you have a blackout. What do you actually do? Do the people know where to go to? Where are the right people to speak to? At the practical things, every test that companies do, it's always shocking.
Yeah.
So
But let's ask the audience. So who in the audience has ever done a fire exercise, getting out of the building on time?
yeah.
All of us, eh? And if you go into a meeting today, always they say, here's the exits for emergency. There's no fire drill planned today, so if the alarm goes off, you have to go out. I remember a presentation for the board in a competition in trying to get the project, and during the presentation the fire alarm went off, so also the board was surprised, but we all went out, we all went in again, and we continued our presentation. But now, who has done a cybersecurity exercise simulation? Yeah, still quite some people. But this is what you need to do. The first time that you do this with your team, and then your team is also including your board, do you know which steps to take? Who do you call? Who do you get in? And the first times is really awkward because it's like a game and nobody really realized what they should have done. But this awkwardness will confront you with, this is the exercise we have to do. So you not only have to test and to show that you're compliant to standards, you have to train your organization to behave. And we already heard it earlier, somebody clicked on a link and that opened some malicious malware to get in. That's why somebody else could steal credentials, get in on the IT side, go to the OT side, Maersk, collateral damage. So Vadym, now we've been talking a bit and you've been experiencing some cybersecurity parts as well. Yeah, you're hooked up, you have a mic.
What is the question, sorry?
No, so first you talked about physical, and then you said, okay, I'll explain a bit how we're now prepared on the cyber part, because probably you're the most attacked from cyber point of view.
Okay, I'm not very good at cybersecurity, right? So just I even cannot protect my own computer from time to time. I mean my personal computer, not the company computer. But you mentioned this very famous story. I think it was even on Wired magazine about the 2014-2015 malware attack on Ukrainian power grid. It's even before the full-scale invasion, right? Yeah. And you mentioned that, and you're absolutely right. So we've been saved by very old technology. Just, pick up the phone, not the cell phone, just, these old wired, phones which most of you even don't have right now in your home, right? I have it. I bought one when the war starts, and I just realized that I need more than cellular communications, so I'm very well prepared right now. So yeah, we've been saved by this technology because the dispatch people, they just talk to each other by these old ancient phones, right? So my advice is don't put in a garbage this pigeon mail, if you will, right? So pigeons could save your power grid when the hard times will come, right? So, but on a serious note, I must say that Ukraine right now is very well prepared for the cybersecurity attack, thanks to our cooperation with Europe and United States cybersecurity specialists. Yeah, we've been prepared because we have a lot of renewables right now, and I agree completely. The renewables is probably the most vulnerable part because they need to talk to each other, right? So just I don't know details, but even if I do know details, I would never tell you. Sorry. Okay.
In any case, nothing has come to the news, and it doesn't look like you have been breached from that point of view. So,
not really. No. I didn't know.
So the chance that others are breached is probably bigger than that you get breached. Sometimes our companies are being still under attack by DDoS attacks on the web-facing servers. And Andrus, this is something that happened in your company as well.
Yes, it was a Saturday in November when missiles flew towards Ukraine. We were under denial of service attack. And of course, Estonia, since 2007, we experienced half a month of denial of service attack towards our IT infrastructure. Country has built most of social parts into IT, and it was really vulnerable. And since that time, we have learned quite a lot what to do, how to do. Still, I think this November test was successful. Of course, didn't make damage, except the web server out for a while. But we pointed out one of the weak spots. But all in all, this experience is really needed. Like I heard before, having a test, having real experiences, and also really action-based recovery in place. It may sound strange. If you feel that your environment is really, really not attacked at all, it's also dangerous. It means that it can be so that someone is already in. It means that don't trust it. Not everything is okay, but it means that being under constant attack is better than being non-attacked.
Yeah, that is one of the things, anomaly detection. What is an anomaly? If there's an intruder behaving normally within the system, you cannot really detect. You're making a face, Florian. You don't, is that something I said? From the anomaly detection point of view, and then we have all this software that we have to add, in a way making it more vulnerable, and then we have a security monitoring system making more connections to the system. Also another vulnerability, if they break into the security monitoring, they have access to everything. Is that a threat from your point of view?
Yes, absolutely. And I think especially if you look to OT environments, OT looks like, sounds like a little bit boring. So these are really devices, sensors in the field that generate a lot of data. And this is where the whole data journey really starts. And this is also where the threat and the risk starts. And one of the challenges that also links to the AI topic is that we have to make more use of this data also in the IT world, so in clouds or in data centers, or higher up the data value chain. And that's called OT-IT convergence. And that is a very, very big risk problem that the industry is facing, because the way this is being addressed today is that you isolate the OT, we call this air gapping, from the IT world. So this gives a certain level of security because things are isolated, they don't use the internet and so on and so forth. We have like data access mechanisms and security, but this isolation is not feasible for the future. So, and of course the speed of innovation is an issue. So the security technology that's being invented in Silicon Valley, but also in many other places like in Israel and so on, is so fast that you really need to have people that are following what's going on. And of course, we also have malicious actors that are very innovative and very progressive in coming up with new things all the time. So from our perspective, there needs to be a very close collaboration in the whole energy ecosystem. So operators, utilities, technology developers, hardware vendors, software vendors, to raise the overall level, especially in the EU and in the United States and geographies that are friendly to us.
Yeah, it is for all of us. When we drive a car, we put on a seat belt. In the beginning, that was not needed, but now I know that when I get in the car, I feel awkward when I don't put it on. But the same hygiene we need when we work in our own environment, even if we're not working in IT or OT, but just using our laptop. Be aware that you can make a mistake and always think twice. And if you do make a mistake, call your security operating center. I remember a time we had to call ASOC, Accenture Security Operating Center. I called them. It was a very good experience. And I was surprised by how this person treated me. It was very friendly and his human skills were great. And I said, why are you friendly to me? I made a mistake, I had to call you. And he said, yeah, but this is the point. You made a mistake and you called me, I cannot yell at you. People are afraid to call because maybe they lose their job. And I'm happy that you called because we could look immediately what you did. We saw it was not malicious, we cleaned it up. But so many people don't dare to call. Yes, you feel stupid and yes, you feel awkward. But at the same time, this also helps your company to protect itself and prevent other bad things from happening. And I give these trainings as well, so why did I press that button? Sometimes you do, because you're in a hurry and you didn't pay attention and you thought, oh. So when you click, then you think, this may not have been wise. But it's always good to, so it starts with us. And then we have people trained for that in the IT, and we start to train people in the OT. And this comes to our last topic. Do we have enough people and resources? You like to comment that, Felipe? You studied it a bit, now you had to do that.
Well, I think it's a common, I would say, understanding and assumption that we don't have. No, we hear and we see, we read in the papers how many cybersecurity experts are needed and so on. No? I don't know where the numbers come from, but I think we can all agree that we need them now and we will need them in the future. So for that, there are a lot of initiatives. Entities themselves, organizations are training people. Now, at the EU level, what we want to push as well is developing a baseline of cybersecurity careers, skills that are needed and will be needed. So this is the objective. By doing what? Is by identifying already what is today existing here, to take a stock of all what we have in terms of trainings, career paths, degrees in cybersecurity, then making that available to the citizens so that we know what exists and how to get to them for those that are interested. Then, based on that, identify which are the gaps that may exist today in the market, what type of skills, careers need to be still developed, and provide an environment, a framework with funding so that this can be effectively developed. No? And finally, like in any policy, the idea is to measure how effective this is going to be. But really, at this stage, we are looking at what we have, and there is a lot. So we need to take advantage of what exists.
Yeah. And if you look at the people that are working, especially in operations, and not only every one of us works more than 100%, so we say. Anyway, that's the appearance. And then you get this on top. And it's, in a way, yes, on top, but it has to integrate. You can compare it with introducing ISO 9001. It only took 20 years before it was normal and logical. If you now ask somebody, ISO 9001, yes, of course, it's integrated in our ways of working. Everybody can do that, and I can show immediately that I'm compliant. And now you want to be compliant to the cybersecurity directives. ISO 27001, 62443, 62351, whatever. But we have to integrate it in our processes. And if we do that well, we have to study our processes very well and learn to do them more efficient. Actually, this helps with the IT-OT integration and getting more, your digitalization better in order. So it helps you to become more efficient. Yes, you need to invest. Yes, you need to train people. And you need to get some people that know not a little bit, but quite a bit more than others. But it is not rocket science. It's just you have to go through it, and you need orchestrators to really push it inside the company. So it starts in the top. The bosses have to advocate it and give the money and the funding to do it. You need to have push the culture that everybody understands this is important. You need to keep that culture and that funding. And also you need to measure and monitor it, because if you don't measure, you don't know if you're getting better at it. And this is what we want to show to our stakeholders, and in this case to the EU and to every country with this EU directive, the NIS directive, that you are able to handle the cybersecurity well, that you have this resilience, that you do these exercises and these simulations, that when you are on your knees, you can get up and recover. So with that, one thing that we did not cover, it was not really in our preparations, but we did discuss it briefly, it's the data. Because this whole grid digitalization is about automating the grid, because the only way to automate or to run everything in its capacity, in the past we just put in 2-3 times the grid that we needed, and then we always had some spare, and now we have to run everything until the max, and maybe over that, but that means that you have to have fast automation on all levels. So more data coming in, and how do we know that this data is still the right data? And that was one of the discussions we also had, and the AI, if the AI gets manipulated data is going to give us wrong decisions to support us. And this is something that is happening in the universities at this moment. For instance, in Delft, Control Room of Future, they're really looking into what happens. Can we see if there's data manipulated? How does that impact the modeling? And how does that impact decision making? So in one way it's scary, in the other way we're doing our best to get that better organized. Maybe to ask our panelists, if you now have this whole discussion, do you feel that we're going in the right direction? I'll start with Cora.
We're going in the right direction, but we're going very slowly. I think we should step up the pace and just start doing it. I always say it to children in schools, etc. Once you go tech, you never go back. So just get started.
Yeah, Vadym.
Okay, I'm pretty sure that Ukraine is going in the right direction. We are on counter-offense, which is the east and south. It was a joke. And speaking about the right direction, so just, well, I'm afraid only one thing, right? So that after our victory, you guys steal all of our energy employees with the 6-digit salaries, because the practical experience they have on the cybersecurity and the physical protection I would say, side is incredible. It's not an advertising, of course, so I'm really afraid of that, because we probably lost our best employees after the victory. 2 years.
But then we need to have another support program.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or we're learning Ukraine to work with them.
Absolutely.
Felipe.
I think as well that we are going in the right direction. I think compared to some years ago, the maturity and the awareness that all organizations, and including from private and public and citizens and organizations, is much higher. So I think that we are all there. And what I think we need to do as well is to learn what has happened in digitalization in other sectors as well. So to make sure that in energy, we take advantage of what has been already there, because others went through the journey already.
Andrus.
Yes, it's hard to say right. I think direction is right. I'm following as a person how educational industry is now changing because of ChatGPT, and it's quite interesting journey. Also, on the other hand, our industry is using maybe 94% of the data already available, and even increasing it. It's better to make more use of the data we're collecting, and I think tools here are great help, and definitely we need to do more, because we do have already data, there will be more data, but we need to make better use of it.
Thank you. Florian?
Yeah, on a scale of 0 to 10 regarding the right direction, I would give us a 6.5 maybe. So that means there is, I think, quite a significant amount of improvement possible. And I think it's one point of criticism from my end is the vision and how much we look forward. And this decentralized world will come quicker as we all anticipate today. The risk associated with this will come very quicker, and we will see hacks, we will see blackouts in Europe and in other places of the world, and we need to do something now to stop that.
Thank you, Florian. Well, thank you, audience. I hope it was educational. Thank you, panel, for your contribution.